Okay, great to see everybody, and it's great for our firm WonderCo to be back at the Reuters event. Last year, my partner Jeffrey Katzenberg, founder of DreamWorks, was on the stage. This year, we brought Puneet Mehta, who's the founder and CEO of Natomi, one of the fastest growing and most successful AI companies in the entire WonderCo portfolio. So Puneet, your company Natomi is backed by the founders of OpenAI, Google DeepMinds, and Microsoft AI, plus Accenture, Adobe, Salesforce, and my firm WonderCo. Natomi has some of the largest deployments in all of enterprise AI, including the Delta Airlines Voice AI, which Natomi powers, the United Chat AI, and others at MetLife, Paramount, Disney, DraftKings, NBA, Tapestry, Lego, Equinox. I could just keep going and going. Recently, OpenAI published a case study on their website calling Natomi the blueprint for scaling safe, predictable agentic systems across the enterprise. So with all that being said, what is it about Natomi that has allowed you to have so much success in deploying in complex enterprise environments?
Yeah, absolutely. Is everybody awake?
Post-lunch.
Post-lunch? All right. The thing is, the reason all these people are behind Natomi, and obviously the success is a key part, but we all need a win in enterprise AI. AI needs a win in enterprise AI, right? There would probably not be this much investment in AI if another year goes by, and there's no ROI positive in enterprise AI. So if you're asking why are all these people backing Natomi, I think AI needs a win. And Natomi, what we have been delivering in kind of some of these early deployments is real ROI, real proof, and doing it in record time. And on the other side of that transformation is real proof. So one, I think it's a long overdue win that AI needs in enterprise AI. And the second thing is, I think if we zoom out a little bit, what happens after that win, right? Where are we all headed? The amount of change that's coming across verticals, whether it is education, healthcare, we've all experienced this as consumers. Like the change that we are all wanting and craving for that has touched us as consumers is yet to come in the enterprise. What's the roadblock there? There are three main things. The first thing is enterprise safety. So if you think about large companies, they are essentially containers of their risk management containers, right? The idea is you don't get things wrong, you have predictable processes, and you deliver outcomes at scale. You cannot disrupt that. And this AI, by its nature, the transformer model, is known to be a little bit unpredictable, right? So that's the first hurdle. How do you build predictability around this kind of an architecture? So that's one thing we've been successful at. The second one is, how do you not wait for outcomes for months? Because these models are constantly changing and evolving. Every quarter, there's a major new innovation. So that whole idea of software development life cycles being 18 months is gone. You cannot do that anymore. The boards demand a lot more. That has been the second hurdle for success in enterprise AI. And the third one, again, is you need use cases that are not just creating cost savings. You need it to create more abundance, right? Because otherwise there's panic. So you look at Natomi and what we deliver to the world, especially with enterprise AI, all these names that you mentioned, that's why all these backers are excited about it, all these partners are excited about it. Accenture is taking it to all of their customers. It's because of these three things.
So we're going to talk a bit about the rounds that you'll be announcing in the next couple of days. 110 million investment. Accenture is leading the rounds. So why would they want to get involved in something that deploys so quickly?
So I think if we look at the word of system integrators, professional services, we go back even 3 or 4 years, everything that technology delivered was delivered in the form of time and materials. That's how we looked at the word. We were like, certain amount of time, certain amount of materials, effort equates to cost of technology. You have heavy CapEx, a little bit of OpEx, and then you hope that it delivers value. The reason Accenture is so excited about this is because for the first time, we have flipped that equation on its head. We are like, hey, we can actually price this by value. we can price this by outcomes. That's what every large company CFO has been wanting to buy for decades. But that's something tech has, as an ecosystem, was not able to deliver. So that's why Accenture is so excited about it, because tech can finally sell outcomes, real business outcomes.
This is the largest investment Accenture's ever made in an AI company. So really big deal to have them in your corner. I want to talk about a couple of your highest stakes in production deployments, and we'll start with United here. So I'm sure, show of hands, people have the United app on their phones. So if that's the case, check out right within the app, powered by Natomi. You'll see at the bottom. Natomi can be found on the website, the mobile app, over SMS. They're thinking omni-channel with this deployment, right? So tell us, how do you ensure quality responses when the stakes are so high, where the AI is interacting with millions of customers, and just one single bad response could lead to front page news, as we've already seen with some non-Natomi deployments?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think commercial aviation or consumer aviation, interesting business, right? Which is, if you think about, and all of us have experienced this as consumers, you think about day of travel. If it doesn't go right, it's your highest stress moment, maybe for that month. Sometimes it could be a highest stress moment for that year. If you're stuck during CrowdStrike at an airport with the family, a day and a half, like it just freaking escalates, right? So when we think about how can AI be helpful in a context that complex, it's a multi-dimensional problem. There's sliding time windows on when your flight is supposed to arrive, when you're supposed to depart or arrive. You could take one trip, your luggage could take a totally different trip. How do they come back to the same point? There are cancellations that happen, there's weather happens. So as we think about how did we solve that, context was very important. That's the often missed part of customer experience is, it has historically been focused on customer intent. A customer reaches out, you're like, hey, what are you looking for? Let me help you in this. But what's happening around them in this situation is even more important than what they're asking you for. They might ask you to be put on the next flight, but as an airline, United might know that, in fact, the flight that departs 20 minutes after is better for them because it's direct and they can skip that layover. So when we were creating this AI deployment for United, I would say that was the special sauce, which is go beyond the intent, the situational awareness, the context. And then once we enabled their business teams to do this, when those airplanes were grounded in Newark last year, their teams were able to make changes literally instantly using our Agentic Studio. So it's no longer that traditional software development lifecycle. They train the AI even faster than they train humans. The same human teams that are taking phone calls, they can actually train the AI faster than that. So that shrinking the time window on training, the context sensitivity and then operating at scale were, I would say, the three things.
Amazing. So you just got back from the Adobe Summit last week, where Natomi's capabilities were shown on stage at the keynote, and Adobe has co-invested with Accenture in this round. And something that we talk a lot about is these two different layers. Companies in earnest are trying to deploy AI to help their customers, but the manifestation of that is you have a shopping chat on the left, you have a support chatbot on the right. Before you know it, it's hiding the entire digital experience. So can you talk us through what you are doing with Adobe to address this proliferation of chatbots disconnected from the website itself?
Yeah, absolutely. So I call it agent washing. All these chatbots from past generations, now they're being pitched as AI agents, so they get some real estate, but then they compete for attention. So think about it. We went from an era where companies did not have enough attention to offer, like attention was a resource that was scarce. And then we were like, all right, let's invent LLMs. Attention is all you need. That's the paper that this whole invention was based on. And now companies can offer infinite attention, but they're demanding the same amount of attention from consumers who don't have that to offer. In fact, it's disrespectful to have a customer come to a digital experience and then struggle to find something, then make a phone call, like all of that, right?
It's like no wonder someone would get confused on a site like this.
Exactly. So with the Adobe partnership, the way we are looking at the world is world's largest enterprise sites run on the Adobe platform. So we are saying, why in service, why would you wait for a situation to deteriorate so much that it becomes a customer support request? Why can you not address it upstream? Something must have gone wrong with the experience that the person felt the need to pick up the phone and call. There's a generation of people that don't even call their own families. You cannot make some people pick up the phone and call anyone. So when somebody calls customer service or sends that essay that they generated using ChatGPT to file their complaint, they've gone through a lot of pain already. So address that pain upfront, results in higher lifetime value, results in higher loyalty, like all kinds of benefits. So that's what we're doing with the Adobe partnership. We are transforming customer experience where we say, don't wait for it to become a customer service request. Address it upstream, address it in the experience, integrated, context sensitive, all the things that AI can do today.
So instead of a chatbot on the website waiting for you to have the issue, explain it over again, what would this look like? How would the capabilities be brought into the web experience itself?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I've often heard some companies say, hey, conversational AI, or saying this is the end of clicks. But if you're all in this room and we started asking each other, it's like, what do you want most in this one? Like, we ourselves don't know what do we want. Sometimes we are not able to say it. Sometimes we don't want to say it, right? So there's an entire visual language for being able to see things and unpack them. And there's a place for that. And then there's a place for conversation. So the problem is that these two disconnected experiences that don't blend well with each other create a lot of fragmentation. So that's what we're doing. We're bringing conversation as a first-rate citizen, as a user experience element in the visual format. So conversation can appear when it's needed to further help you drill down and express yourself, and it goes away when you don't need it. So consumers can interact with destinations on their own terms.
So it's embedded into the digital journey itself, not
Correct.
sitting above or disconnected from it.
Correct.
It's a really big concept, and until now it hasn't been achieved. So it's exciting to see Adobe and Atomi partner on this. All right, so I want to switch topics now and talk about ROI a bit more. So what's different about how companies should measure ROI for the agentic era? And why is it that preemptive interfaces structurally have a different economic model than the responsive model?
Absolutely. So we talked a little bit about this at the beginning of the session. Traditionally how companies think about investments in tech is you take a bunch of CapEx, you take a little bit of OpEx, and then hope that it actually returns money. And also, your tech has had much longer depreciation cycles, right? Typically, if you launch something, you expect it to work for at least 5 years, many times 8. Traditional CFOs have depreciated tech over 10 years. But now there's stuff that becomes not relevant in under 2 years. There are times when companies are launching projects and in 6 months that experience is outdated because a new model came in, a new way of interaction came in. So the way we look at ROI now is, obviously cost savings is a key part, but that should be a very small part of the puzzle. Because if you make this resource abundant, it's a new building block for business. And the way you measure value for AI is, has it increased the lifetime value? Has it increased customer happiness? Has it increased transaction size? Upsell, cross-sell. So your cost savings should more than pay for your AI program, but the upside is on the other side, which is all of these benefits. So yeah, if anybody, any of your tech vendors, any of your internal people are telling you cost savings is enough, no, because then you will end up shortchanging the experience to just focus on cost savings, and that's not the promise of AI.
So let's go to a topical question. So the world's largest insurers, Tokyo Marine, Liberty Mutual, Berkshire Hathaway, Chubb, Travelers, this was just in the last few days, got approval to exclude AI damages from their standard policies. The information published this chart just a few days ago. What does that mean for everyone in this room who's currently deploying customer-facing AI agents?
Yeah, it's, I would say the message is very clear, right? These companies, these insurers are not saying that AI would not work. They're saying we don't know how to measure risk. And let's unpack that a layer further. Why do they not know how to measure risk? Because there's no standard template, there's no architecture, a risk architecture for AI yet. The standard risk architecture for deterministic systems just does not work for AI, right? Like, would you trust a model to make a decision on an insurance claim? Not yet, right? At some point in the future, yeah, but only if you build a predictable system around it. Like I said earlier, large companies are essentially your containers of risk management. You cannot afford things to go wrong, otherwise this happens. But how does this affect the day-to-day lives of everyone here? Like if you're building agentic systems and you don't have that sanction layer around it, that's what Natomi is known for. At some point, the CFO is going to be like, hey, if an incident happens, are we covered? And you'll have to have, the answer has to be yes, right? That traceability has to exist. That explainability of how a decision was made has to exist. You have to build enough predictability around an AI system. So, and now, the writing is on the wall. It's no longer optional. I think until now, we were kind of all just, I would say in enterprise AI, we were just dabbling with what is possible. Now, without that, nobody should go live. It's a real risk to large enterprises to do it without the guardrails, without the sanctioning.
So, last question for you. We have over 300 leaders in this room, most of them thinking about or in steps or somewhere along their journey of deploying AI in the next 12 months for customer experience. What are your top pieces of advice for this audience?
Awesome. Yeah, we could go on all afternoon, but let me try to filter it to maybe 3. I would say the first one is stop paying for pilots and pay for outcome. If there's a vendor you're working with that is asking you to pay for a pilot and not have skin in the game, there are infinite great AI demos out there, and they all work awesome. They all work really good in demo mode, but you'll be stuck in that POC loop. There was some stat I think came out of MIT last year that some very high number, like 95%
yeah.
of all pilots and POCs in AI don't make it to production. So yeah, there's an entire market for companies that just want to make money selling you POCs and pilots. Don't buy them. Buy a pilot only from a company that, or get it for free from a company that wants to have skin in the game, where you can pay for outcomes. The second thing I would say is rethink your team structure and your development process, especially for CIOs and CTOs in the room. If you think about it, just saying our developers now use AI in Claude Code or Cognition or one of those is not enough, right? Your team could be fundamentally restructured. How product management is done, how key components are developed, how do you run regression tests? Like there are accelerants literally in every part of the process. So you might want to relook at your team, rejig some of the titles, some of the responsibilities, and then also relook at the process. Like SDLC, software development lifecycle, does not work anymore. It has to be replaced by ADLC. And then while you're doing that, you also have to watch out for your team members who are spinning out all these agents that might not get used. And also, if these agents exist in your organization, some of them might get used without the right authorization, and that's really dangerous. There was another analysis that came out just last week that there are 80%, like some very high number, 80 or 85% of large companies have agents like that they're not aware of. These are live in production, and they could get called at any moment. So these are ticking time bombs, right? So that's the second one I would say. Look at the org, look at ADLC, and look at these rogue agents sitting in your org and see if you want to keep them alive or shut them down. The third thing I would say is start thinking of governance not as a bolt-on. And you cannot also borrow the governance architecture from the previous world. These autonomous agents have the ability to decide on your behalf. You have to have maker-checker models. You have to have the kind of observability, not just to optimize these agents, but to do risk management. Jan LeCun, who was the chief scientist at Meta until a few months ago, he recently said, hey, the biggest threat for AI is, especially in the large enterprise, is when it is making a decision, it is not many times taking into consideration the downstream risk or consequences of that decision, right? Many times it does not even have visibility into it because it has been siloed, made into a part of a small process. So I would say that's number 3.
Awesome. Well, Puneet, for us at WonderCo, the last few years, it's been incredible to see your rise I'm just so excited for what's to come as the funding gets announced and more customers have real success with the Natomi platform. So yeah, thank you so much.
No, really
appreciate it.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Justin. Thank you, everyone.